Hi everybody, welcome back to another review. I don't know if we can call this a review. It's not a model kit review like I normally do. But this video is going to be very different. It's going to be unlike really anything I've ever done. Now, I've been kind of sort of racking my head on what sort of review I should make. I don't have any new model kits at the moment. Haven't actually made a review in months. I've just been doing other stuff in my life. Um, as of late, so no new model kits at the moment, but I thought, could I review or just post something to the channel, at least one thing? Now, many of you may not know this, but I actually play guitar. Now, I've been playing on and off guitar since I was 14. Now, I am 23 now, so while I've been playing on and off over the years, I wouldn't consider myself a very experienced player, but I'm very passionate about the subject, nearly as much as ocean liners. So, yeah, honestly, as a channel that is really just dedicated to reviewing, oh, you get another view of my room there. I thought I would post this because honestly, I think I've had this guitar, or guitars, if you will, long enough now that I think I'm confident enough to make a video on it. Now, I'm not going to be doing a sound test. This review is going to be more just talking about this guitar. Now, if you don't know much about guitars, you're probably wondering what exactly this is. This is an EDS 1275. EDS stands for Electric Double Standard. It's not very hard to see why. We got a regular 6-string guitar on this end and a 12-string, very unusual, a 12-string guitar on the other end. However, if you read from the title, I'm going to label the title as Chibson. Now, obviously, it doesn't say Chibson on the headstock, it says Gibson. I purchased this guitar from China about a year and a half ago. Now, I paid about 420 euros. I don't know what that is in the United States for this guitar. The real Gibson version costs about 10,000 euros. So a guitar for a fraction of the price. It's effectively a fake replica. Now, I have a lot to say about this instrument. Some good things, a whole lot of bad things. Now, I know this is kind of a sour taste coming off the fact that this is my first review I made in a while, but I really want to talk about this guitar because it's very popular for people in the guitar world to purchase these replicas. Now, first of all, let's just talk about the way it looks. This guitar looks stunning. Visually speaking, I would probably say this is the best looking replica I think I have ever seen, which is why I bought it. Now, I know EDS 1275s, the real Gibson ones, they vary wildly in looks, especially depending on the era. This one seems to be an amalgamation of every EDS 1275 from every era. The first dead giveaway that this is a fake guitar is just by looking at these saddles. On a real EDS 1275, they're in one of two places. The saddles are either way down here, or they're like a regular SG, where they're just up here. A lot of modern ones are usually up here, and they're typically better when the saddles are up here. It's really not good to have SG saddles all the way down there. There's tuning stability and instability, and not to mention it's a nightmare to get strings. It's a nightmare even to get strings for this guitar. Regular Ernie balls will actually really struggle. I don't know if you can see that, but I've barely gotten a wind over, like you can even see there, it's not wound very well because it's just so hard. You can actually see there's not even an actual string wound over it. It's basically just a thin inner wire of the Ernie ball. It's even worse here on the G string. Yeah, G string. But another thing as well is that the logo is kind of off. It seems to be just a decal because there is a bump here. Real Gibsons will actually have it built into the wood. There is an identification made in USA. It's certainly not made in USA. And that serial number is not an EDS 1275 serial number. Let's see. Now, I've actually modified this guitar. This is not stock from Chibson. Let's see. I swapped out these bell covers on the truss rods for a more authentic ones. The original ones were these really thin one-ply kind of crappy ones. The tuners that came with this guitar were absolutely horrific. This one, this one, this one, and I think this one were broken. When you turn them, they just span, and they never actually wound up the strings. So I replaced them with Gota tuners. I don't know exactly the model. Does it say on the model? It's been a while now. It just says Gota there, so they're great tuners. These ones are great now, but if I'm going to be real with you, great tuner replacements don't really fix the huge problems with this guitar. And there is a lot of problems. But of course, going down, I asked them to put thicker pick guards here. The pick guards are cut really weirdly, like there's gaps there. And even if you look here from the center, see how it's off center like that? So, let's see, what else? The speed dials are fine. They were actually in the wrong place, so I had to take off these caps and put them in the right place. I think it's, yeah, you got the volume here, volume tone there, so. One thing you'll immediately notice is that there's only 2 switches. Switches are okay, actually, they're not that bad. But typically on a real guitar, or on a real EDS 1275, there's 3 of them. One there, one there, one there. This switch controls the pickup position on the 6 string. This switch usually controls pickup position on the 12 string. And then you usually have a master control switch to turn off one guitar. So basically they're on all the time. Now you could maybe correct that by lowering down the volume here. It doesn't bother me when I'm playing it because typically my arm is usually resting over the top of this 12 string. And if you haven't noticed already, no, this video is not flipped. This is actually a left-handed EDS 1275 replica. I'm a left-handed player. I think Paul McCartney was a left-handed one. I don't really know. But it's interesting to say the least. The quality of the saddle... Oh, here's another difference, by the way. Do you see this? See the way it's like almost like you can fit a flathead screwdriver in there? That typically isn't the case on a real Gibson. On a real one, they don't adjust like that. Let me see, just trying to pick out differences. Well, actually, to the untrained eye, it doesn't look anything unlike the real deal. But to the trained eye, there is a lot of big differences. Now, one thing that is really, really bad about this guitar is this right here. This is the part where my arm is usually, because it's a, it's a left-handed guitar, right? So I'm playing it this way. This is my strumming hand. Notice, by the way, I have this down-tuned to D and not E, like, I'll explain why in a second, but you will notice that there's a bevel here. See how it thins out like that? There's no bevel on the other side. Now this bevel on a real EDS 1275 goes way in, well not that far in, but it goes way in like this, almost like an SG. On a real EDS 1275, the body is pencil thin. It is extremely thin, but you will notice on the back here, this neck heel, I think it's called, is actually really wide. I think it's a full centimeter wide. And looking at it here, it's relatively thin, but then if you go around the back, Look how blocky that is. It's really, really bulky. Actually, this back plate, the back control plate actually sits out awkwardly. Yeah, you see how it's flexing a bit there? So it's not sitting in flush. Um, this control cavity is almost double the thickness of the actual shoulder rest. Now, you might say to yourself, well, that's just kind of nitpicky. Why is that a problem? That's actually a huge problem. The reason why that's such a big problem is because this is a double neck guitar. This thing weighs nearly, I haven't weighed it formally, but typically real ones weigh anywhere between 18 to, I think, 9.2 pounds, somewhere give or take. This guitar, I promise you, it feels like it weighs double that. Now, I've had the privilege to play a real EDS 1275. This guitar feels almost double the weight. Now, that's kind of a problem because what I've often found, and I don't play this guitar very often for this particular reason, when I sit down, because I almost always sit down, you see my chair there, I always sit down when I play guitar. I rarely stand up. It's mainly due to the fact that I play a lot of old blues, a lot of rhythm stuff. I'm not into the really fast playing stuff, and a lot of country stuff as well, which is great for the 12 string. But when you're sitting down with this guitar, your leg starts developing pins and needles because the guitar is basically crushing your knee while it's sitting on it, and that's not normally supposed to happen. Sure, real double guitars are heavy, but they're not that heavy, right? A strap doesn't really seem to make a difference either. Now, when standing up, now I can't really demonstrate this, but or maybe I will in a second. Actually, let me stand up and I'll show you just what I'm talking about here to illustrate this point further. Okay, so I'm now standing up. Now, okay, this might be a bit tricky to capture on camera. Now I'm using a leather strap here, and there's a reason why I'm using this. Standing up, I'm playing obviously with a double electric guitar. It might be a little, trying to flip between the necks. But I want to illustrate something with this guitar, and this comes down to the actual problem with the thickness. Now, all SGs have something called neck dive, which is where the center of gravity is shifted forward towards the neck. So when you let go of the guitar, the neck will move down. Now, on a double guitar, it's double as intense. But the way this double guitar shifts downwards is very odd. The center of gravity isn't actually towards the necks. The center of gravity, or the weight that's pushing the neck down, the only way to really capture this is if I were to give you this guitar and you can hold it yourself to know what I'm talking about. I know the guitar looks way bigger and I look way smaller. It's just the camera angle. Don't worry about it. But there's this weird thing where, because the guitar is so much heavier than it's supposed to be, when I let the necks go, the weight, it doesn't feel like the guitar is neck diving. It feels like the weight of the guitar is coming from here, and it's pulling up over the guitar. Now, I call it overdive. I don't know if that's a word that guitarists use, but I want you to take a look at what happens when I let this guitar go. Do you see that? See how the weight comes up over this? Maybe I'll illustrate that again. Now, typically when you're playing the 12 string, you have your elbow braced against the guitar, but it's really bad when you're playing the 6 string. When you're playing the 6 string, the guitar is almost always fighting against you, but it's not fighting in a way that it's pulling to the ground this way. It's fighting in a way like it's pulling up, like that, right? What often I tend to do is I'm actually pushing inwards this way. Because if I don't do that, it just instantly lets go, you see? Maybe I'll demonstrate that one more time. And you don't want to let it go holding it like this. See? See how the weight is always coming from this end? That's a small ergonomic detail that's kind of a problem. Again, I know real EDS 1275s do have that sort of now it's a little out of tune. I'll explain why in a second. But that's just a small detail that may actually be a bit of a deal killer despite the value of this relative to a real one. Now, I'm just looking down at the guitar here, and there's another point that's just popped into my head. And it's probably the biggest issue with this guitar, and honestly renders this guitar basically unplayable. I know that's a word that a lot of guitar players say loosey-goosely when it comes to fake Gibsons, but this guitar is actually genuinely unplayable. Let me explain why. Okay, now, at first glance, maybe those of you that are quite astute will actually know why this guitar is so problematic. You will notice on this guitar, the action is not ideal. You may not be able to tell at a first glance, but it is relatively high. Now for a 12 string, that's not really that bad. There does need to be a bit more clearance between the strings and the fretboard. But even on the 6 string, the action is just not where, it's not ideal. Now I do have the saddles lowered, but I can't lower them any further because I get fret buzz. And believe me, the fret buzz is all over this guitar. Even with the slightly higher action here, it still buzzes like crazy. The reason for that is because the frets, now the edge of the frets are fine. They're actually cut relatively well. Sure, zooming up, they do look a bit wonky, but it's playable. My fingers aren't getting cut off me. But that's not what really is a problem here. Now, maybe you can see this if I look this way. Do you notice it? Maybe I'll move the camera. Maybe you might notice it there. This 12 string is actually warping forward. Do you see that? That shouldn't be like that. These two necks should be perfectly in parallel with one another. But this 12 string is warping forward. It might be more noticeable looking at it. It's hard to notice with the necks because it's rounded off. Maybe if I look in this angle. It's kind of hard to capture on camera. It's very noticeable in person. There's almost like a full centimeter of clearance between, yeah, you can see over the top of the neck on the 12 string. This neck is warping forward dramatically relative to the 12 string. Folks, there's no easy way of putting this. That is not normal. A guitar should never ever be doing that. And it should never be doing it with a 12 string for two reasons. 12 string guitars are under double the amount of load that a 6 string is. 12 string guitar necks should be built like a war machine. They should be so strong. They should usually have 2 truss rods going through. And on top of that, this guitar is down-tuned. This guitar is down-tuned a whole step. And it's still warping forward like that. Actually, it's really noticeable there, you see that? Which means this guitar is actually not strong enough to hold all these strings. Now what that means is that you will notice here, if I just play a G chord, look how much I have to press down there. Like, it's really bad if I play a bar chord down here. It's very hard to do it like this. Look how much clearance that. Now, again, I know a 12 string should have plenty of clearance, but not to that extreme. And the fact that this guitar, it's out of tune. I literally tuned this guitar up before I started recording, and it's completely out of tune. Even this one is out of tune as well. So it's not a tuner problem. These tuners are great. I've used these before. It's not the tuners. My theory is that, as it's typical, there's a lot of fake guitar companies that use very cheap wood. You don't want to cheap out when making a 12 string, because over time this guitar neck is going to keep warping and warping and warping. And on top of that, it's also very likely that, now I haven't seen any cracks forming yet. Emphasis on yet. I mean, like, look, there's a scarf joint there as well, so it's clearly made out of an amalgamation of wood. Actually, the inlays are a little bit wonky as well. A lot of the paint kind of goes over the top here. The nuts are actually cut really bad as well. Take a look at that. Oh, and focus. Yeah, they're... Maybe I'll lean it this way. They're really, really low down. Oftentimes you get string choking here, where you'll be tuning up and then the string will ping and launch up. It's pretty, it's challenging to work with. Anything basically past this point on the guitar makes it unplayable. The action is just so high, you can't, your fingers just get stuck, and you don't want really high action on a 12 string. So that one factor right there means that this 12 string is basically nearly unplayable. What else? As for the 6 string, the 6 string may be okay, maybe. It often goes out of tune. It's very hard to intonate. I've nearly maxed out the saddles there. I've tried to intonate this multiple times as best I can, but every time I pick this guitar up, it's way out of tune. I know the cue the joke, haha, Gibsons go out of tune a lot, but you know, it's challenging, really. Now, honestly, I mean, like, yeah, look at that. And I've adjusted this truss rod multiple times. The truss rod, by the way, is very loose. It doesn't, it spins quite wildly. It's almost like there's not enough bite on the actual, on the nut to actually get it. And it is powered by an Allen key to get it turning, of course. Now, I'm not going to plug in this guitar because, honestly, on my Fender Champion, and like in this room, there's no way I can actually properly portray, especially with YouTube's audio compression. There's no way I can actually get an accurate sound with this, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. It sounds like... I don't even really want to say a Squier, because even a Squier sounds really good. I mean, that's a great guitar. I should show you my Fender Squier. Maybe I'll do a comparison between my Squier and my Vintage 2. I don't know, but if you want something like that, or you want to see more stuff about guitars, just leave a comment. Fake inlays, of course, which doesn't really bother me for this price point. The inlays, by the way, are actually a bit crooked. That one's kind of off. Again, with camera angles, it's often a little tricky to portray it on camera. But that one's really bad on the 12th fret. What else? Oh yeah, take a look at this. Do you see how there's like a flame top, almost like from a Les Paul, and the kind of stripes there, and then look how it goes vertically here, the wood grain, and then flame top this way. It's almost as if they glued the remains of a Les Paul, arbitrarily cut out this devil horn, I like to call them, and glued it on this way. It's very shabby, to say the least. Now, when I got this guitar, there was a lot of this black gunk on the frets, which I've since removed. But even then, it still has this very chemically kind of odor to it. It's very odd, a bit of Now look, you could pick out things here and there, like a bad paint job there. Let me see. Yeah, that little blemish there. There's little things you could pick out, but that stuff to me is relatively superficial relative to the fact that this guitar is just really not enjoyable to play. It's very odd. Now look, if you want to upgrade this, I would advise not to. Because honestly, with those warping necks, the amount of money that it will cost a luthier to repair that, I mean, I don't really know what to say. Now look, I bought this guitar. You're probably wondering, why did I buy this? Because let me tell you something, if Epiphone made a left-handed double neck guitar, or Firefly, or any of those companies, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. But they don't. So, me as a left-handed player, it was either this or a 10 grand guitar. And obviously I went with this one. It is my dream guitar to get a real EDS 1275, but I don't know. I mean, playing them in person, they are amazing, but they don't feel like this at all. There's small little things, like the screws here are incorrect. Real EDS 1275 don't have those plus head screws. The internal wiring is quite shoddy as well. It's just cheap electronics. For the price, if it was a single neck 6-string, I'd say it would be okay. But for the double guitar, I'm going to have to say no. It really wasn't worth the value. Maybe I'll use this as a wall hanger or just a testing guitar. Because, look, as passionate as I am about guitars, it's, I don't know. This guitar is just dodgy, to say the least. And I can't resell it because obviously it's a counterfeit guitar. As far as I'm aware, by the way, I'm not self-incriminating here. In the Republic of Ireland, or actually in most of the parts of the world, owning one of these guitars is in a bit of a legal grey area. You can buy one, anybody can buy one. However, you're not allowed to redistribute it. Or sell them and definitely don't sell them on mass scale. So, yeah. I think that's all I really have to say about this guitar. It is a poly finish as well, so just like a lot of guitars are, no nitro. Again, that doesn't bother a lot of people. I do like a nitro finish myself, but it's, you know, most people don't really care about that kind of stuff. Input jack is relatively fine, doesn't buzz or anything. So yeah, I think I'm really going to call it there. That's all I really have to say about this guitar. Would I condone buying one? With my experience, no. Visually speaking, it looks incredible. To the trained eye, it doesn't look like the real deal, but yeah. Okay, folks, I think that's where I'm going to call it quits. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, or hopefully you didn't. Like or dislike it, whatever you feel is necessary. Let me know, actually, any of you guys own Chinese-made guitars, because I've heard varying different things. I don't see many reviews of Chinese double neck guitars on YouTube, so who knows? I've heard great things about them, I've heard bad things about them. My one just seems to be a relatively mid one. A lot of great things, a lot of bad things. But anyway, looks like that's it. See ya.